Are your workouts leaving you less flexible? Do you find that after you lift weights, your body tightens up, you're feeling stiff and achy, and you need to do additional work just to loosen up again, like mobility drills or stretching? Is there anything that can be done about this? Because there are so many people that do feel this way. Well, on today's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, it's exactly what we're going to be discussing. We're going to cue our introduction and we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset. And the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are discussing this idea of flexibility, strength training, and how one can actually influence the other in a positive way. See, so often when people do their strength training, when they lift their weights, they think, oh my gosh, my body tightens up, I feel sore, I feel stiff, I feel achy after, and guess what? Now I'm not as flexible. So I need to do my stretching, I need to do my mobility drills just to try to get moving back to how I was before I worked out. But what if it didn't have to be this way? What if what you were doing from a strength training perspective could actually improve your flexibility? It can, and we want to give you one key principle to help you do exactly that.
Charlie, the fact that many people's strength training or resistance training leaves them in a place where it's almost like, well, of course I need to stretch after I do this, is one of those things that it's so common, we think it's normal, but it's actually not normal. Like, it doesn't have to be normal. And this one's actually so common that I'm almost like, wait, is it normal? Oh, wait, no, it's not normal. So if you are exercising, the way that Charlie and I talk about exercise is we have one outcome goal, and that is that your body gets healthier, stronger, more functional, okay? And most people are like, yeah, my exercise does that. But then they also say things like, but I really wanted to push myself because everyone else in the class was doing it. Or, the really crazy guy at the gym, he does this exercise, so I'm going to try it. And so you're like agreeing, but then you do some other stuff, right? And that can sometimes not necessarily like slash and violate your health, but it can leave you a little less functional in the meantime because you're going after other things other than what your body's parameters are telling you. So there is, seriously, if you got a gut grasp of this one principle that we're going to talk about, your mind will be blown about how you feel after workout. Like, you're going to realize, like, wait, I thought I was supposed to be sore and achy after I work out. And you're like, well, I did all the same weights, but I changed this one thing, and now I'm not sore and achy, and my body's not screaming at me to go get a massage or stretch or ice or, all the things you do to recover. It's also really a great principle if you're a little nervous about the tightness and you're like, I want to start, but I'm really nervous about getting tight. Do this. You're going to love it.
Exactly. And Julie, I love that you brought that up because you're right. So many people do think, oh yeah, well, my workout makes me more functional. My workout improves my health. And then it's like, okay, cool. So you're doing it like every day. And they're like, well, no, I can't because, I'm sore for a day or two after, there's no way I could do it every day. It's like, okay, well, then it's not really leaving you more functional, is it? It's actually kind of breaking down your function, kind of breaking down your health. And it's like, yeah, but then I recover and then I'm more functional. It's like, okay, but what if we could remove that middle step? What if we could remove that day, 2 days, 3 days, where you have to feel like, oh my gosh, my body's so stiff and achy and sore, I need to recover. And we could remove that timeline and actually get you back to exercising more quickly so you could get more of the health benefits of exercising, again, more quickly, and also do so in a way that's a little bit more sustainable for your body. Because let's be honest, if every single time you work out, you're like, yeah, I need to take 2-3 days off, eventually you have that conversation with yourself where you're like, yeah, I'm not really liking this that much anymore. And so all that is great. And guess what this is also going to do? It's also going to improve your flexibility. And that really is what we are dialing in on today. So there are kind of 4 key principles that we like to discuss. And today we are giving you one of them because by using this one, it will allow you a better opportunity to do the other 3 principles that will also help your strength training increase your flexibility.
That's right. And your strength training and flexibility should go together. Like, they shouldn't be 2 separate events that are constantly at battle and dueling. Okay, So should we tell them?
Yeah, I think we can unveil it now. Pull back the curtain.
They have listened this far into the podcast.
That's
So
true.
here's the golden nugget. Okay, once I tell you, you have to keep listening because there are some specific details we want to tell you about applying this. Okay.
Exactly.
So to improve your flexibility while you weight train, you need to respect your range of motion, not violate your range of motion.
Yes.
Okay, so if you've never thought about your range of motion and you followed whatever you see in the gym or from magazines and whatever, you're probably violating your range of motion. And we're going to now teach you how do I respect my range of motion, not violate my range of motion.
Or go ahead.
Oh, you go.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, because the first thing that after hearing that popped in your mind, you're like, okay, well, does that mean that I'm not going full range? We want to talk about that because there are some nuances to understanding what full range actually means for you and why it's so important that, yeah, you can go your full range, but understanding like the gold standard full range is often one of the things that's actually causing you to need more recovery time from your workouts, even though it's the thing that everybody says you should be doing.
So first of all, we do want you to go full range, but we want you to go your full range, not someone else's full range. That means your full range externally is going to look very different than someone else's. Yet, we always judge our own exercise, our own mobility off of someone else. Even professionals sometimes. I will tell you, every single book that we have in our bookcase over there gives measurements for stuff. Like, oh, everyone should be able to flex their hip 45 degrees. Everyone should be able to abduct their leg 20 degrees or whatever they are. We've forgotten what they are because they're literally irrelevant because everyone has a different structure, a different bone structure, a different skeleton, different joints. And so the thing that we want we're going to teach you how to do this, but the thing that you need to keep in mind is I'm going my full range and that is the best thing for my body. I'm not going someone else's full range. I am not going to an arbitrary, everyone should do this range. You're doing your full range. Now, the tricky part is figuring out your full range.
Exactly. So how do we go about doing that? How do we figure out what your full range is? And then how do we go about respecting that and not violating it? Okay. So actually the first part is way easier than what might be going through your head right now. You don't need to, bring out any kind of tape measurements. You don't need to have even like an extra set of eyes on you. All you need to do is whatever exercise you're about to do it, but without using weights. For example, like if you are going to do a shoulder press and you're kind of like reaching up overhead, just do that reaching up overhead motion, but not with the intent of, well, I need to get my arms all the way overhead, but rather with the intent of, okay, let me feel how my shoulders are moving while I'm doing this and where they kind of naturally come to a stop. And for some of you, that will be like perfectly straight up and down overhead, like you are the most excited kid in third grade who has the answer and you need to be telling it to the teacher, okay? For others of you, you might get, halfway to like 3/4 of the way up and you're like, yeah, that's about as far as I can go. And that's great, all right? We're not putting a label on like, oh, well, that's not enough motion or you're doing you're doing full motion or anything like that. All we're saying is today at this moment right now, that's how far your shoulders are moving. And so understanding that, recognizing that, and then kind of making mental notes of like, okay, well, this is how far my shoulders are moving right now.
Yes, so not labeling it good or bad. And this literally takes, 10 seconds?
Yeah, once you know what to do, you pop it off so quickly.
You sit down to do your shoulder press and you just do a press with no weights and see hey, where does my body want to go today? Mm-hmm. Okay, so first you're seeing where can you go? And now it's time to work that range, right? Mm-hmm. So you figured out where is my full range. Now I'm going to grab my weights, and I'm going to do the exercise. When you're doing the exercise, you're going to stay in the range that you first defined in step 1. Maybe you have full range today, maybe you have half range. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you're staying in the range that you do have, okay? So you're customizing this exercise to you, which only makes your body better. Okay, then you grab the weights, okay? And as you're moving, you're just observing, like, what's happening here? Are my shoulders doing okay as I do my shoulder press? Is there more reason for my body or is there a reason that my body is not wanting me to do this range? Maybe the first step, you check your range and you're like, no weights, I've got full range. But then I grab weights and that top like 5 degrees of motion does not feel good. Like my body is telling me there's pain there. Great. You want to leave that out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you're defining your range more. So not only do we want to see what does your body do with no weights, that's the great first step, but when we exercise, we add resistance, we add weights, we add challenge. So when you have the challenge on you, you're kind of doing another assessment like, hey, is my body still cool with this range? And your body's going to tell you in terms of symptoms, usually pain, zinging, pinching, and also like I just can't move it there without like thrusting it or, doing something weird with my body, right? So that's step 2, which is like, hey, I've defined my range with no weight. I'm going to continue to find my range and respect my range with weight.
Yeah, exactly. And we often call this like staying within your symptom-free range of motion. So, you do the movement, and then once you can feel like, okay, cool, this is where my body's moving, you add the challenge, you add the load, whatever it is, and then now all of a sudden, like Julie was saying, you reevaluate, okay, now this is how far my body's moving, and this is where it can move symptom-free. Like you were saying, no pinching pain, no tightness, no zinging, nothing like that. It's just like, okay, this feels smooth. Now, here's the thing. Here's where so many people get caught up. You might be hearing this, you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to try this out. And you're like, well, I tried doing it with the weight where it was symptom-free, and I didn't have much motion at all. And what goes through people's minds is one of two things. Either, well, I don't have much motion, so I'm not going to do it. Or I didn't have much motion, so I need to push through it. Those are usually the two things. Either you're going to completely abstain from doing it, or you're like, forget Julie and Charlie. I need more motion than this. I'm just going to push through it. Eventually, like my body will catch up. Both of those, I'm going to be very honest with you, they are bad options. And they are bad options because those are the two options that do not help your body get better, do not help your strength and your flexibility improve. Now, here's the thing. If you are coming off an injury or you have a doctor that's telling you, hey, don't do this exercise for, whatever period of time, okay, cool. Take their advice, understand what they're telling you. We're talking about if you are coming in with a relatively clean bill of health, but you're doing this exercise and all of a sudden, something feels a little bit weird, okay? Don't be saying to yourself, well, this isn't as much motion as I think I should have, so obviously this isn't good for me, or obviously I need to push through. Both of those are bad choices in this scenario.
Charlie, I just had actually an example of this in one of my sessions this week. One of my clients came in, she's crazy busy at work, and her low back was pretty tight. And so I kind of expected that, we're going to do a core exercise where her body's going to talk to us a little bit. So, of course, we got to trunk twisting, trunk rotation, and I said, okay, so you do this. How are you feeling? She's like, fine, I feel fine. And then we added the resistance. So step 1, her body said, I'm cool, the whole range. I can do it. There's no symptoms. Then we added the resistance. And she said, okay, I do half the range, and then the second half of the range, I'm getting pulling. So her getting pulling is her body saying like, hey, we're not cool for this second half. We're not good. We don't got it. We're not doing this. And most people, they feel like, well, I can do it with pain. I can push through pain. We think I should just do the full range. But instead, we decided, I told her we're going to just move half. We're going to do the first half. We're only going to do the range where your body says we're good to be challenged here. It was actually such a limited range in her opinion, not in my opinion, but in her opinion, she's like, she kind of got frustrated. She's like, is this even worth it? Like, do the first half? And I love that she's like blunt with me. I'm like, yes, the worst thing that we can do is challenge your body where it's directly telling you to not challenge it. How else can your body communicate with you except give you pain, give you symptoms, give you zinging, give you pulling? And so what was interesting was that the more sets that we did, the half range, the silly range, the range that was going to do nothing for us, on our final set, she could do the full range. Because what we did was we said, hey, your body says it's not cool. We're going to say, yeah, yes, body, you're correct. We're just going to work the range that you are cool with. And over time, what her body needed was clearly just some warm-up. Because, and a lot of warm-up, like 3 sets of warm-up. Because it came in a less than great situation. She came into her session with her back tight. So here's the thing. If your body is going to give you more range, it will only give you more range if you respect the range that it's good in. It will never give you more range if you keep violating it and keep going past the places and keep going and training and challenging the areas that feel symptomatic and is already talking to you. It will never change like that. You always have to be strengthening your range in the range that your body gives you, and you will be shocked at how quickly your body will start to give you more range. You just have to be there to observe and respect it.
Yeah, exactly. And when we say like it will never give you more range, what we're saying is like it won't give you more range that you will be able to sustain and keep. If you keep violating where it's saying, hey, this area is, is symptomatic, stay out of there. If you keep trying to push through that, push through that, push through that, your range may open up, but there are going to be consequences down the road from doing that as far as like, oh, symptoms coming back more intensely, things like that. So just kind of a clarification there. But yeah, so that's step 2. Okay, number 1 is define your range without any challenge or load. Number 2 is now define your range with the challenge or the load that you're going to be using for the exercise, staying within the symptom-free range of motion. And then step number 3, and this is also where a lot of people start to lose it, is when they go and they do the exercise, they'll just kind of shut off their brain and be like, okay, well, this is kind of where I was symptom free. This is where I could move before. Step number 3 is as you're going through the exercise, you need to constantly be exploring with every single rep that you're doing. Hey, where is this feeling good for my body? Where can it feel like my body can move on this rep? Look, your body can change so quickly. It can change from one rep to the next as far as like allowing you to move further or saying, no, we don't want to move as far in this time. So if you are just doing these first 2 steps and you're like, all right, great, now I have my range of motion determined based on the amount of challenge I'm going to be doing, and you just try to keep blasting through that range of motion the entire time, you are setting yourself up to then feel lousy after you work out. You need to stay very mindful. You need to keep exploring your range of motion and keep this, like we've been saying, this mindfulness while you're doing the exercise, listening to where your body's saying, okay, you know what? We don't want you to go as far during this next rep. Or be like, hey, you've been respecting what your body can do. Guess what? During this set, we're going to actually increase your range of motion while you're doing it. And it happens all the time. It happens very quickly, but you need to be able to pay attention to the right cues in order to be able to take advantage of that.
Charlie, I actually can't even remember the last workout that I had that I started tight and didn't leave feeling looser. Like, maybe, I can't even remember any workout actually. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is the more that you do respect your range, the more your body's going to give you, the more looseness you're going to feel, the more flexible you're going to feel. And really, this is like a rule of how the muscles work. Like this applies to everyone, whether you are like super conditioned, you've worked out forever and ever, apply this one principle, you're going to notice huge changes in your exercise and how it makes you feel during your exercise and following your exercise, and the amount of time you need to recover is going to be like slashed. And it also is really great for people that are super deconditioned, meaning you don't regularly work out, you've never worked out, you've only worked out by walking, or you've never weight trained or whatever. Again, it's kind of it's what would be like a body rule. The more that you respect your body, the more your body's going to give you. And the cool thing, one reason I love working with the muscle systems in the muscle system is because muscles change really fast. Mm-hmm. They are like so adaptable. Like you give it the right stimulus and in 2 minutes it feels completely different. You know, you give it the wrong stimulus and it's going to take a while to recover sometimes if you have muscle damage, but sometimes we think we have muscle damage and we really don't. It's just that our muscles are like, yeah, you're going to violate what I want to do, so I'm going to shut down for a little bit. Anyways, what I want to say is that the more that you respect your range, you will see quick changes in your exercise, but you do have to follow all 3 steps. Mm-hmm. And that's how you do it. Like a lot of people think like they're going to apply one step, but no, you apply the one principle, which requires the 3 steps.
Exactly. So let's recap what those 3 steps are, and then kind of tell you or how you can kind of be able to get continuous information on making sure that you're able to apply it. So number 1 is define your range of motion. Okay, whatever exercise you're going to do that motion of the exercise, but without any load. Number 2 is then add the load or add the challenge and continue to define your range of motion with that load or challenge, specifically staying where things are symptom free. No pinching, no pain, no discomfort, no tightness, anything like that. And then moving on to step number 3 is with every rep that you do, you have to make sure you are doing that continuous exploration of how far can I move symptom free, staying within your personal symptom free range of motion. And you do that, for the length of the exercise, one set after the next, and your range of motion increases. And that's exactly how you are going to increase your flexibility with your strength training. And that's also how you're going to make sure that you leave your strength training and in the days that follow, you're not feeling achy, beat up, sore, feeling like, oh, I need to do some mobility work or some stretching or anything like that, because your body tightens up. Because while you were doing your strength training, you stayed within the range of motion that your body said, like, okay, yeah, this is appropriate for us today. This is what I can do today.
So if you really like this content and you want to see like more visuals of this, we're going to be beefing up our Instagram, and you can follow us at Exercise for Life Studios. It's just Exercise for Life Studios, all spelled out, all one word. Give us a follow there, because we're actually going to be bringing a unique show starting hopefully in the next couple days of us reviewing different exercises, and so that you get like the visual part of it. So anyways, give us a follow on there, and we'll see you on Instagram.
Absolutely. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is interested in improving their flexibility but feels like it's something they have to do additional to their workouts? Meaning they have to do the stretching, they have to do the mobility work in order to stay limber and feel like they can move well. Share this episode with them so they can understand these simple 3 steps for this one key principle that they can start adding in with their strength training to improve their flexibility in a way that will be more sustainable for their body and less likely to actually create injury. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and when they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us a 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week. We'll talk with you all next week.